beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're talking about a brand new palette that's about to launch from Nomad Cosmetics. This is the Route 66 palette. Of course, we're going to do the whole swatch and review, comparisons, tutorial, all of my thoughts, but first let me give you just a little bit of info about this palette. If everything goes according to plan, which you never know because I am at the mercy of technology, my computer and the internet and YouTube at large to get my videos up on time. But if everything goes according to plan, this video will be posted the day before the palette goes live for sale. So this palette will be available on the Nomad site on Tuesday, May 6th. So hopefully I'll be able to get this video up on Monday the 5th. That's what I'm shooting for. This is an 18 pan eyeshadow palette and it will be priced at $49 US. You will be able to use affiliate codes. I do have one that will save you 10%. It's just my first name, Amanda. If you're interested in buying this new palette or maybe something else from the Nomad site, then you can just use that code Amanda at checkout and that will save you a couple bucks on your purchase. This Route 66 palette has some really fun collage style packaging. So let's start first with a close-up look at this palette, and then we'll get into the swatches and review. First up is a look at the cover art here. We can see that the box and the palette itself have the exact same collage style artwork. On the actual box, the outer carton that the palette comes in, we will see a depiction on the back of some of the shades, as well as a bunch of information about the palette, some things of note. Nomad palettes are all cruelty-free and vegan, and each one of their palettes supports a different cause that's related to the theme of the palette. So, for the Route 66 palette, they are supporting the Nature Conservancy, and as usual, I will link to the organization they're supporting. If you're interested in learning more about them, just check the description box and I will link that info for you. One major thing I want to point out here is the depiction of the shades on the back is wildly different from the appearance of the shades in the pans. I do tend to see some notable difference each time they do this little picture on the back, but this one seems particularly off. I don't know if there's some sort of finish on there that's messing up the colors, but especially the shades in the blue-green side just look way, way different than the colors that are actually in the eyeshadow palette. This is not sold on a retail store shelf, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just something interesting that I noticed that I wanted to point out to you. Here on the back of the palette, you'll see a more condensed version of the information that's on the back of the carton. And then when we open the palette up inside here, there is a nice big mirror and we see 3 rows of 6 shadows. That gives us 18 shadow shades in total. Of those 18 shades, 10 are mattes and 8 are different types of shimmers. You will see that some of these shimmers are more opaque and intense than others. That is very noticeable once we get to the swatches. You can also tell here, despite my swatching and using this palette, that there are little imprints inside all of the eyeshadow pans. Go check out my Instagram page. I will link to my post. I took a picture of this palette when it was in a pristine, untouched state, so you can go see what all the little pictures in the pans looked like if you're interested in that. I think it's such a beautiful, special part of Nomad palette, so I always make sure I capture that in a still photo over on my Instagram page. I want to point out 2 different layouts that you can find within this palette. First, and probably most obviously to everybody, are the 2 very distinct 9-pan eyeshadow palettes that are existing within this Route 66 palette. The first 3 columns, so that little square of shadows, is a very warm, toasty, reddish-based 9-pan palette. And then directly next to it, we find a very distinctly blue-green, more lush leafy type of 9-pan palette. Also, you can see with the layout here that the shadows are very nicely curated in rows as well. If you look at each individual row, you'll see that a very well curated look exists from each one of the rows. So on the top row, there are some neutrals and more turquoisey type of colors. In the center, definitely the more bright and bold pops of color. And then on the very bottom row, a more muted, dusty desert type of color story emerges. So I think there are a lot of different ways to approach the color story in this palette. And I also swatched them in my own order that I put together. Again, it'll be linked in the description box if you want to see me swatch this in my own preferred quote unquote rainbow order over on my Instagram page. Sometimes I like to rearrange the shades in a palette for my own personal swatch that I do that's more aesthetic. I tend to keep my super info heavy review focused content here on YouTube, and then the more whimsically aesthetically enjoyable content over on Instagram. I'm going to show you a quick little turquoise eye look that I created and I actually loved so much more than I expected. I first just primed and set my lids with the Ulta matte eye primer and then a little bit of the Road of Dreams shadow just to set that primer down. Now I'm using a really big fluffy brush to use the end of the trail shade, which is this super interesting, almost like pukey green type of color. I know that doesn't sound very good, but it has this sort of sickly yellowy green shade. And I know that using words like pukey and sickly are actually very gross, but there is something appealing about this shade, especially paired with the super bright turquoise and teal shades. So I'm going to pack Main Street America all over the majority of my lid. And I'm going to create a little bit of an ombre type of feeling using a bunch of the mattes in this palette. So I'm actually going to start going back and forth between a couple of these blue shades with Main Street America as my main base color and then the shade Blue Whale closer to my lids to create that dark to light ombre fade. So I'm packing the Blue Whale shade on with a really dense little flat brush. And then we're going to go back and forth between Blue Whale and Main Street just to make sure that there's a good continuity and a nice solid blend. This seems like a lot of work and a lot of planning, but it's actually pretty easy to fix if you add too much or not enough. This is a very forgiving technique, and that's part of the reason why I enjoy it. And I encourage anybody to try this all matte ombre with just three shades. It's super simple and it definitely looks playful and whimsical without having to be technically perfect. Now, I think that the all matte look is actually really cool, but I can never restrain myself from adding some shimmers. So I used a little bit of the shade Marsh Bridge, and I didn't want to disrupt all of the ombre blending that I did. So I added a little bit of that shade on the very inner corner and then just sort of blended it up and out through the crease area. I didn't want to cover up all the work that I just spent doing blending out those matte shades, but I do need just a little bit of sparkle, and I am adding a little pop of that shimmery shade Marsh Bridge to the lower lash line too. I think that this really accentuates the colors in the look and really opens up my eyes without having to add an eyeliner or even a waterline color. Although a pop and waterline with this look would be really, really cool too. So I curled my lashes and added some of my L'Oreal Paradise Big Deal mascara, and that's the finished look. I wore this out and about all day doing my regular chores, all of the outside heavy lifting, unloading groceries, walking the dog, yard work, all of the things that you have to do in the warm months. And my eyeshadow still looked great. I did notice a little bit of fading of those shimmers, especially in the crease area. But in general, I was really happy with how this held up for me throughout the day. Now it's time for everybody's favorite part of the video. We're gonna do some palette comparisons. I first pulled a few of my ColourPop Mega palettes. These are always heroes of my comparisons. And this Play It Jewel palette is pretty close. We are missing a couple of shades. I didn't even have something that was worthy of comparing for a few of those. But in general, I do think that you could get a few of the same looks, particularly the match on the bright blue and bright green is really good with the Play It Jewel palette. Those are shades that are going to be lacking in the It's a Mood comparison. You can see that It's a Mood definitely has more subdued colors overall. We're missing the bright neon essence of those boldest shades there in the center, but I do think you could get a few similar looks. Mostly, I think these would be nice as companion palettes more so than dupes. But if Route 66 is a little too bright for you, maybe It's a Mood is more what you're looking for. I'm going to combine a couple of Nomad palettes for the shade comparisons here. I was really trying to work efficiently in my Nomad collection to try to find the most similar shades without having to pull out 3 or 4 different palettes for each comparison. Here, I think that Fairy Tale Europe and Ghost Town USA are pretty decently close. Again, lacking that bright blue and green in the middle for sure. But I do think that I was able to get a slightly better match on the brighter shades by combining the America's Parks and Fire and Ice palettes. So maybe between all 4 of these, if you're a Nomad collector, you would be able to recreate the Route 66 color story. Let me know if there are any other comparisons that you're interested in seeing, and I can put together a YouTube short or maybe include them in another wrap up style video later on, if that would be helpful. I know that when I first opened up this palette, I was like, oh, it's so bright and colorful. I'm going to insert a picture where I cover over these 3 shades. Even just taking these 3 brightest shades in the middle out and leaving some of these other more desaturated colors, this is not nearly as rainbowy as it looks at first glance, especially with this really fun, like cluttery, meant in a good way, not derogatory, like this fun, cluttery packaging paired with these 3 really bright shades. I don't even think this corally red is really doing as much to alter that perception. I really think it's these 3 in the middle are just such bright pops focused right in the center of the palette, so they really draw your eye in there, which I am not mad at. But I do think that it gives this palette the appearance of being this bright rainbowy palette, when in general it has a lot of neutrals and also a lot of very toned down and desaturated colors, which I find to be an interesting combination. I think it's hard to do something different at this point in the game because we have seen 1,000,001 eyeshadow palettes. So I think that this is an interesting take on a mix of colorful and neutral type of shades. And I think that a lot of people are going to enjoy this. I would put it kind of in the middle as far as Nomad palettes go for me personally. Maybe it's time to do an updated Nomad palette ranking, perhaps. But I do find myself really responding to this color story and this color story here. So I've been enjoying using this quite a bit, and I've really been enjoying getting some more toned down and neutral looks from it, surprisingly. But I would love to hear what you think about this palette. Are you interested? Do those bright pops really throw you off? Maybe you're really craving some brighter colors for this neon sign type of look. I always love to hear what you think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Should I do hair down? I got my curly curls out today. I got the air dried hairstyle today. Massive mosquito bite that I got walking my dog last night. Let's see if I can cover that up a little bit. Bonus tutorial. I've tried so hard not to touch this too, so I can't imagine how massive it would be if I had scratched it. I'm using the Salt New York Best Case Concealer. Let's do a little setting powder on top of that so that I don't wipe it off. That looks better, right? What do you think? Yeah, it's a little better. I mean, look, it's a mosquito bite. It happens, am I right? If everything if everything goes according to plan. What the heck? Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. Where was I? I tried to do something that was out of my comfort zone for my look, but I do still want to wear this all day. So I was trying to find a happy medium, and I really like this. I was also trying really hard not to use any of the warm neutrals because I've been wearing those a lot since I started testing this palette. This is surprisingly easy to grab for like a 2 shadow look, even though it looks really bright. Do you want to see some more looks with this one? My tutorial videos never really get a lot of views, which is fine, but that just tells me that it's not what I should make. But sometimes I make them anyway because I want to. Or maybe I need to put it into a palette bingo or something to get some more use on the channel. Let me know what sounds good, what sounds fun. Or maybe you're like, I'm not really that interested. I'll wait and see what else you got. That's fine too. Just maybe, as long as you say that nicely, then that's fine. All right. Next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. I gotta go get some stuff because I appreciate teachers. And if you're a teacher, I appreciate you. And if you're not a teacher, I also appreciate you. But today, we'll thank the teachers. Regardless of your profession, I love your face. And I'll see you real soon in my next video. Okay, bye.